gentlemen, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. Now your host, Manny James Games.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's your boy Manny James Games. Welcome back this week to this episode of Sports Minds with Manny James. Today we're going to be breaking down running backs and quarterbacks for our 2023 way too early fantasy football predictions. Those of you joining me back this week, thank you so much for joining us here again. I am truly honored that you come back week after week to listen to me. I am by no means a DFS expert, as I've acknowledged before. I'm actually just a season-long fantasy guy. What are my credentials? Well, number one, I don't have any. No, I'm just kidding. My credentials are, I win a league pretty much every year, and I do pretty good. I'm not saying I'm the best of the best, but I do spend a lot of time preparing for the season. I do spend a lot of time researching and, of course, doing mock drafts. And those of you that have already known me before this know that I spend a lot of time breaking down my rankings and looking at it a certain way. So my goal today is to show you guys how my mind operates, how I analyze skill, and hopefully it can help you to not be the worst at your league, right? If you're one of those that, joins a fantasy league, you love football, you never have the time to do the research, and you just kind of draft last minute, you look at things last minute. Well, hopefully looking at my stuff last minute allows you to help to draft that team better. But my goal is not to be a last minute option or the best option, right? Because that's not realistic. My goal is to help educate you to be the best possible armchair amateur GM you can possibly be. And that does take a little bit of time, a little bit of practice. And we'll go ahead and work on that here today and see what we have. So those of you, hold for me 1 second for a word from our sponsors. Here we go.
Hey there. My name is Manny James Gonzalez with PRB, and I'm a real estate agent here in Central Florida. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran, military relocation pro, and big supporter of 2A and veterans' rights. My specialty is VA transactions. I'm also experienced in all parts of real estate.
I've been living in Florida for over 20 years, and I can tell you we still believe in freedom down here. One of the greatest job markets, excellent economy, and no state income tax. When it comes to an agent, you want one that's going to be honest, not afraid of a fight, and most importantly, willing to do the things that some agents aren't willing to do.
And what's that, Manny?
Shoot straight, Dan. If you're ever considering buying in Central Florida, you need somebody you can trust, and I got your six. I'm Manny James Gonzalez. Find land for the free and home for the brave.
Boys and girls, here we go. We're going to go ahead and jump into these running back ranks. But first, I'm going to remind you of what these color coordinates mean. I like colors, as you can see here. A lot of colors here. I try to use these colors and, for my rankings, help stand out a little bit. So obviously, wild cards are going to be your guys that are not really getting much PT. They're just there in the event of an injury. Keep them on your roster. Maybe they get a new role, earn it throughout the season. Those guys, you don't really want too many of them on your team, but if you have to fill the spots, those are going to be guys you fill, or you also rotate in the event of injury. Handcuffs are your guys that, speaking of injuries, take over for that guy. They come in, give you a solid workload, or of course they're just going to sit there and possibly even get a small role until maybe you get a matchup here and there that does favor them, but they're not really going to be something you rely on. They're just going to be your guys that you fill in case of emergencies. Your flex guys, obviously just that flex, right? You're going to put them in here and there. Those guys you're going to rotate. It might be the one guy this week, another guy the next week. You want that spot's pretty much going to be flexible, and that's why it's a flex, right? You want to make sure you're looking at matchups, you're looking at projections, and you're getting the best play possible. Of course, your starters are your backbone of your team. These are your guys that start every week except for bye weeks, and obviously you're going to need a good stable of these guys. They're typically going to be there throughout the mid-rounds, and they're going to sit there and keep your team afloat, hopefully, and you get the right guys to lead you to the promised land. Now, Hall of Famers, this is the cream of the crop, right? Untouchables, guys that take you to fantasy Valhalla. So your guys are going to win your league for you. If you have 2 of them, you did great, my friend. You have a great team. You might be able to get far, but if that's all you have is 2 great players and a couple of flexes, you might want to break one of those down for something else. But obviously, I'll talk about trade values here down the line. Let's go ahead and jump into these running back ranks. Starting off over here, obviously the last guys, I have them in gray and I have them all exposed. At the end of the day, we don't want to spend too much time with these guys. It's not really anything, new as far as information. It's just wait and see. So at this point, there's not worth speculating too much. It's just really a waste of time and resources. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, second or third back on that team. He's behind Jerick McKinnon and he's behind Isaiah Pacheco. So you don't know what's going to happen there. Raheem Blackshear, Carolina, same thing. It's a logjam over there. Miles Sanders is there now. Chuba Hubbard, so he's third. Chase Brown, rookie Cincinnati. I think he has a chance for PT. It all depends on what happens to Joe Mixon. He might play a game or 2. Buffalo, same thing. Guys are injured. James Cook is a starter. Damian Harris is a second guy. So Nyheim Hines, of course, buried. Those of you that had these 2 guys, Zach Moss came in and he was the guy last year. But with Jonathan Taylor back, you're only going to want him as a handcuff. I think he's the better of the 2. Deion Jackson started off the handcuff, and then those of you that played him know that he was not very good at all. Second half of the season, he just was not used whatsoever. Horrible coaching. That's why the guy was fired. Anyways, these 2 guys over here, we have Tank Bigsby, JaMycal Hasty. So I have JaMycal Hasty up right now. Things could change come training camp. I did see some tape on Tank Bigsby. The guy doesn't have the best hands yet, right? He's a big back. He's going to be the in-between the tackles guy. I honestly think he's probably going to get a stable role in that offense. But obviously these rankings can change throughout the season, but he's a guy to keep an eye out for. Chase Edmonds, he's a new backup in Tampa Bay. Rachaad White's going to get a hefty workload. Chase Edmonds just seems to be buried everywhere he'd go on the depth chart. I think it's be a size thing. He's like 5'9", 180. So he's a nice little scat back, but teams don't seem to love him. Since his days in Arizona, it's kind of gone. Next guy, Keontae Ingram, Arizona. Speaking of which, he's going to be behind James Conner, so he will get some PT because everybody knows James Conner gets injured. So if you grab him, grab his handcuff, right? You don't want to miss out on that. Cordarrelle Patterson. Now, this is an interesting situation. I think he's going to get a little bit of PT, but Arizona loves Tyler Algier and, of course, Bijan Robinson. So I don't anticipate him having that much of a role. Maybe he goes back to a receiver type of role, maybe a slot guy. He did catch a couple passes out of the, outside of the backfield last year, but not that much for me to, be like he's going to be the guy. Fortunately, he was the guy beginning the season. He got injured, and all of a sudden, Algier took over. Pierre Strong, New England, good backup. We all know New England loves their committees. Ramondre Stevenson, great back, but you're going to need to handcuff him. Kenny Nwanu, Minnesota. Obviously, Dalvin Cook's gone. And obviously they have the new guy, Alexander Madison, taking over. So obviously he hasn't taken over a whole season. He's only been taking over spot starts. He's been great for Madison. So I think Naganu is going to be a great stash behind him. He might even get a regular role. Who knows? But the next 3 guys here, Jaylen Warren, I actually think I might be elevating him a little bit more as the season goes, because if you watch his training camp, that guy is killing it right now. He's looking great, right? He even looks better than Najee in training camp, but nobody's replacing Najee. He's going to be a starter. Kenneth Gainwell, Philadelphia. It's a logjam in Philly. You have DeAndre Swift, Rashad Penny. Gainwell's the odd man out, unfortunately. He's going to get a small, sizable role, but the problem is you're going to need to stash him. At the end of the day, Swift is going to be injured, or Penny, one or the other, or both. And Gainwell comes in, he gives you a solid fantasy floor, but by no means is he a fantasy winner. Elijah Mitchell, again, he got a pretty hefty role last year for a little bit behind McCaffrey. So nobody gets any snaps over McCaffrey if he's healthy. So he's a nice little stash, a little handcuff stash. Great to have in the back in case something happens. But chances are you're not going to get any flex level production out of that guy. All right, who do we have next here? So let's go ahead. 1, 2, 3. So we have Zonovan Knight and Michael Carter. So Zonovan last year took over the starter role over Carter. But with Breece Hall coming back, I don't think he's going to get the role because he plays the same role as Breece Hall was playing. Michael Carter is a little bit more of a pass catcher out of the backfield, a little bit of a scat back. And, he's getting paid a little bit more. So there's a good chance that he's going to be the next guy there. So that's why I have him slightly higher. Chuba Hubbard, the backup in Carolina. Of course, I think Miles Sanders is going to get hurt. As a Philly fan, I've seen him get hurt many a times. He's a solid back. He's just not too durable because he's not a bigger guy. So Chuba Hubbard is going to step in a couple games, give you that production. But again, you're not going to want to start him by himself. Moving up over here, next three guys. Of course, I have Kareem Hunt. I think wherever he steps in, he's going to be the second best option. Because if you look at all the rosters this time of year, everyone's pretty much filled out. There's going to be a few. There's 3 free agents, big free agents here that are still looking for homes at running back, and that's Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, and Ezekiel Elliott. So there's a good chance that wherever he goes, he's going to be solid, but he by no means is going to be winning your league for you. You just want to handcuff him or have him as a backup just in case. Kyron Williams, he was looking okay coming back from injury last year. He didn't have a lot of games because obviously the Rams didn't make the playoffs, so he played the back few games of the season. Coming back this year, healthy Matt Stafford. We're talking about Cam Akers is back there, so maybe they take more of a committee approach because Kyron is a better pass catcher, but that remains to be seen. I don't know anything about Rams this year. Hence, no one does, right? Who knows what's happening there? But I do know Rams are going to pass it to Cooper Kupp. That's about it. Next guy over here, Ronald Jones. Dallas, right? He's a new backup. He might even get some playing time early in the season, guys. There's no guarantee that Pollard comes back healthy, right? So if he does not come back healthy immediately, then he's going to, take over for Tony just for a few games. Tony comes back, he's going to be the workhorse that we all believe him to be, but I don't think he's fully healed from that. And those of you that think he is, the guy did get injured pretty late in the season, so we'll see. Next three guys here. So Jerome Ford, backup running back at Cleveland, second year in that, in that system. He's not really the greatest, but behind Chubb, he's a handcuff, right? Might get you some points. I would just obviously only handcuff him, really. Same thing, Gus Edwards. I thought he was going to be great this year. Unfortunately, you don't know what Baltimore's going to do. They're always adding running backs, especially with the J.K. Dobbins situation and Gus Edwards situation last year. He looked great, but he just couldn't stay healthy. Rashawn Johnson, another one of those handcuffs, sash. Right, if you grab one of the running backs for Chicago and you can't get the other one, get Rashawn. Right, because eventually he's probably going to have a role. One of those guys is going to be pushed off, and by those guys I mean it's either going to be Khalil Herbert or Dante Foreman, right? We don't know. Chicago's kind of unpredictable at this point, but it's not worth rostering 3 running backs from the same team. I wouldn't go over 2. Here we go, next 3 guys. Raheem Mostert to round off the handcuffs here. Obviously, he's in Miami. I think he's the odd man out. Everyone is on the Devin Achane train. And, of course, they still have Jeff Wilson. I think Mostert might be the odd man out. Who knows? He did pretty solid last year. With that backfield, you have no idea what's going to happen. But obviously, you already saw him. Damian Harris over here for Buffalo. He's the backup. I think he's going to give you a solid role. He's going to be taking the goal line touches because James Cook is not a goal line guy. And I think Josh Allen takes a step back from all those rushes because he just got beat the hell and back last year. And I don't see that being sustainable for any long-term fantasy quarterback. Next few guys over here, I'm going to go ahead and jump up. Tyler Algier, great running back. He's going to get a solid role next year, even behind Bijan. So I do think he's going to be pretty solid. But that remains to be seen. But either way, I think he's worth having a nice little flex in your bench. You're going to play him sometimes you're not. Isaiah Spiller, obviously rookie last year. He looked great in college. Obviously, didn't get any touches last year, 8 points, right? So the guy's hasn't produced yet. But when I look at that backfield, Joshua Kelly doesn't really appeal to me. Austin Eckler obviously re-signed, but he's more of a scat back, right? Catching that backfield, doing a little bit of everything. I think Spiller does emerge more of their goal line carry back this year because they have to learn to live without, Eckler, and I think this is Eckler's last year with them. Next guy, Devin Achane. Again, we talked about Miami. Similar to the Rashawn Johnson situation, I think he's going to be a nice little flex, background piece, because I think one of those guys is going to get injured, whether it's Mostert or Jeff Wilson. One of those guys is going to be hurt, and Achane's going to come in, and I don't think he's going to produce till the second half of the season. But, hey, if you roster him and you're patient enough to wait, you will be rewarded for your efforts. Next three guys here. All right, we have Dante Foreman. We just spoke about him. Chicago. He's had an excellent year, second half of the year for Carolina. I was surprised he got signed for so cheap because he had some wheels on him. Now he's competing for a starting spot with Khalil Herbert. Herbert was great last year, but I think Foreman's slightly better, even though Herbert's younger. So I don't know what direction Chicago goes in. I do not want to get involved in that mess. Like I said, it's just too hard to predict. If I'm grabbing anybody, I'm grabbing Foreman and Rashawn Johnson later and holding off on Khalil because his ADP is too high for me. Jerick McKinnon, speaking of ADP, is 158. He's one of the last guys picked. This man had almost 200 fantasy points last year. People have him ranked below Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and honestly, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is on his fourth year of his contract, right? They're not going to pay him. They're not going to option into the fifth year for him. He's a first rounder. They're going to let him walk and figure it out. He hasn't been effective since his rookie year, so the guy has really been on and off the field. So McKinnon came in last year, amazing season. He was their go-to goal line back. And if you watched Kansas City last year, they just loved running flats and pass plays and little out routes in the goal line. And they're excellent at executing it. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? We'll see. Devin Singletary, now with Houston, he is going to back up their running back over there, and he's going to be great. I mean, Dameon Pierce, great back, got injured late in the season, but it wasn't a huge super injury, right? It was something a little bit minor, so I think Singletary gets in there, has a solid season, because he was solid over there in Buffalo, 177 points. That's actually pretty darn good there. Next three guys here. We have Zach Charbonnet, Seattle, right? So he's a rookie. Seattle loves a rushing attack. I think he's going to get some touches. He's going to have a regular role. So you want to have him on your team, right? Even if you don't have, Kenneth Walker, you want to have Charbonnet. He's one of my favorite handcuffs because he's going to be a pretty solid contributor to the team offense. Khalil Herbert, again, I have him ranked slightly above Foreman. That's because Foreman's being drafted pretty much the last round. And I have him slightly above Foreman because I don't think he's going to produce much more. If anything, he'll produce and maybe get injured, but that remains to be seen. We'll see. Leonard Fournette, he's another guy that's probably going to wait until after training camp to sign with the team. He had 226 last year. He's going to be solid this year, but he's going to be the second guy. There's no team on there right now, those three free agents. There's no team that they can sign with that they will be the better option of the two. But all three of those backs are pretty much goal line guys with the exception of Hunt. So Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, goal line guys, they're going to get that role, but they got to find that home first. So let's see. Speaking of Zeke, there he is right here. Again, solid last year, 185. He lost a step, but hey, he's still going to rack up a pretty good amount of touchdowns. We'll see how many. Antonio Gibson, he's another guy flying up boards over here. ADP 124. This is obviously, through June here for the ADP. Excellent. He had an excellent season last year. 160. Not excellent. It was solid. But he wasn't utilized till later. And I've been on this Antonio Gibson train for the last 3 years, and I'm hoping it finally pays off, right? Because last year was one of his better years besides his rookie year, and I think it's finally the day that Ron Rivera uses him right. So we'll see. Next guy here, A.J. Dillon. Excellent running back last year, 167 points. I mean, one of the best handcuffs in all of fantasy football. He, standing alone, put up some good points. I had him in a combo of him and Aaron Jones last year, and it did not disappoint, right? Obviously, early season wasn't too productive, but the second half, we did see some production there, so that was awesome. Let's move on here to the next guys. Oh, going too high. Jamal Williams here, 225 last year. He was a fantasy running back king last year for touchdowns. Man had 18. Ridiculous. Also unsustainable. Now he's over here in New Orleans. I love him as a pickup because we all know Alvin Kamara is going to be in. He's going to be suspended for a few games. We're going to see how many, if it's 3, 4, 6. But Jamal Williams is going to step in and he's going to just blow it up. So if you have him, you want to hold on to him because he's going to have a solid flex role weekly, but then he's going to come in and really be a contributor there. Samaj Perine, similar situation. His top running back, which we already saw, was Javonte Williams. So Samaj is going to be the starter as Javonte works his way back from the ACL. He's healed, but he's not 100%, and it's going to be several weeks before he gets there. And even when he gets there, I think they're still going to give him a lesser role because they want him to ease back from it. And typically it takes about 2 years for those guys to come back to original form if you take care of them properly. So if you're going to grab Samaj, if you grab Javonte, you might as well grab Samaj. And those of you wondering, why do I have a handcuff notation on him? Because that's exactly right. He's going to be a handcuff. You can't grab Javonte without grabbing Samaj. Because at the end of the day, these guys are going back to back, and you want to make sure you have both of them if you're going to grab one. Because that's not a backfield you want to risk one player on. Because by the time Samaj could be blowing up first half, and then Javonte blows up the second half, and now you're screwed because you had 50% of the backfield, and you only get it for 50% of the year. At the end of the day, I want 100% of that backfield all year long, baby, if that's where I'm going. Rashad Penny, Jeff Wilson. Let's stay right here. So ADP is a little bit higher than these two guys, but I think they're going to be a little bit more productive. Again, Jeff Wilson, solid season last year, does get injured a lot. We're going to see what he does. Rashad Penny last year, excellent season. Obviously, these guys have handcuff notations because if you grab one, you better grab that backup because there is a lot of risk with these guys. And there's no guarantee they're going to, stay healthy. So you just want to make sure you're cautious of that, especially at this position. Next two guys here, James Conner and Brian Robinson, two guys that you want to handcuff. So Brian Robinson, you obviously, last year was kind of it wasn't too effective. It was more of a basic year for them. I mean, I wasn't too thrilled about Brian Robinson last year, even though I was bullish on him. I was highly disappointed with his 112 production, and that was at the start of the second half of the season. He was only averaging like 10 or 12 points, and that's not what you want in a starter. The next guy here, James Conner, 200 points, solid. I think he stays at the same level, but the problem is with that guy, he gets injured a lot. So do you want him? If he's your third best running back, fourth best running back, he's worth rostering. But he better not be your second best guy because I'm telling you, you're going to be hurting when he's out. So you always want to handcuff him. Next two guys here. DeAndre Swift, Isaiah Pacheco. Yes, I am an Eagles fan, and yes, I am very reasonable. So Swift had a great season last year. He missed a lot of games, and those that he did play, he was effective. If you grab him, you need to handcuff him. You don't want to take that risk alone because there's a good chance he will get injured. And even playing at home, you just can't, you can't predict that. Pacheco, he didn't really start blowing up to the second half of the season. I think this year he does take the head of the committee approach. Hence, I say committee approach. He's going to increase his production, but he's not going to, be a superstar by any means. He's still going to be a handcuff, right? You still want to bunch him in with those other guys and make sure you get one with the other. So him with McKinnon, that way you're sitting there pretty nicely in the event something happens. Miles Sanders, again, another guy that you need to handcuff. Chuba Hubbard's his handcuff. So 200 points, 216 last year. I think he takes a little step back. Reason being, he's not on the Eagles. We made him look good. And at the end of the day, he's on the Carolina Panthers now. We know what that team's going to be like. They're going to be a bottom-tier team. So, yes, they're going to take a run-first approach, but Do I think he sustains this season? No, he's always injured. So, unfortunately, Miles, you are a handcuff. So, let's see here. Next two guys here. Now we're getting to the good ones. J.K. Dobbins, 71 ADP. He only had 81 points last year, missed most of the season, came back super late, and finally had like 1 or 2 good games. I think he finally gets that starter, minutes and stays healthy, and he's super productive because that rookie year he looked great. I think he gets back to form finally. It's been about 2 years since he's been there. David Montgomery, obviously I think he takes a step forward in Detroit. Yes, he is the second option over there, but Detroit's not going to run your traditional committee type of approach. I think they're going to use Jahmyr Gibbs more in the slot and David Montgomery more in the backfield, and of course Montgomery will be your goal line back. And I don't think they will underutilize him like Chicago did. Plus their O-line is way better than Chicago's. Next two guys over here, James Cook and Cam Akers. So James Cook, 105 points last year, obviously takes a big step forward with the starter role and starter minutes. He's going to, second half of the season, he looked great. I mean, that guy was really productive. Cam Akers takes a step forward because now you have a little bit better O-line and Matt Stafford's back, right? So they're not going to be the bottom worst team in the league. They might be the bottom 5 worst team now. So not much of a step up. But, solid overall. Next two guys here, Dameon Pierce, obviously rookie last year, great. Missed back half of the season. I think he gets healthy this year, and with Devin Singletary helping him out with snaps, he's going to take a step forward and be way more productive. Alvin Kamara, 211 last year. I still think he takes a step forward. He had a down year for 211. That's not an Alvin Kamara year, trust me. And that's even considering he's going to be taking a suspension. But because his ADP is 49.9, he's a really nice late pickup. Don't count on him for the second half of the season or first half whenever they suspend him. But my guess is you're going to definitely have to handcuff him. And I love that Alvin Kamara, Jamal Williams stack because you're talking about 50th picks and then Jamal's not coming out until the 103 typically. So that's 50 picks later. 50 divided by 12, you're looking at about at least 4 rounds later. So you could definitely get him pretty easily. Kamara in the 3rd and, get Jamal in the 7th, right? So that wouldn't be too bad there. Next two guys here. Alexander Madison obviously takes a step forward, full starter minutes. I have him high. I'm bullish. He's obviously, that ADP has probably changed since then, but I think he's going to take a step forward. He was pretty productive when Cook was out. And then Rachaad White, obviously taking a step forward, going to be a full-time starter. A lot of people are super bullish on him. I have a really good friend that's been talking about him all offseason. I think he's going to be solid and great. I just think that people are going to be able to stack the box a little bit on the Bucs whenever they run that big formation. They have amazing receivers. I just think the quarterback is gonna, keep, not going to be able to keep defenses, honest. So I think they're going to take advantage of that. Let's move up here, and then next two higher tier guys, we have Aaron Jones, Jahmyr Gibbs. So obviously Aaron Jones 248 last year. I think he takes a step forward because now he's going to have more of a run first approach into Green Bay. No more Aaron Rodgers. So he's going to be great. Jahmyr Gibbs, he's been flying off the boards early. He's going to be a great fantasy back. I think he does get in that higher 200 range. I definitely think he's going to be in fantasy rookie of the year this year. He's going to be excellent. Definitely a great pickup. Somebody that you would love to have on your team here. So definitely pick him up. Even if you get him around the 5th round, his ADP right now is around the 4th, 12th, 24th. Yeah, around the 3rd to 4th. I think he's worth the 4th round pick easily. And then above him, of course, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker. I think Breece Hall is your comeback play of the year. Actually, last year, his knee looks great. He is practicing right now without the brace, and he looks like a tank. So that guy's going to be back better than ever. And then, of course, Kenneth Walker here coming back. He was Offensive Rookie of the Year for NFC. Continue much on the same. He will continue to be dominant, and that Seattle offense is dangerous. Let me just tell you. Yeah, there's plenty of weapons there in Seattle, So I think that they're going to definitely be super productive this year. A lot of really great options there. Kenneth Walker is one of my favorite fantasy backs here. And then, of course, let's move up a couple spots. Next couple backs we have here are Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon. Dalvin Cook, of course, is no longer with Minnesota. He's a free agent. His ADP is 30. He's going to stay around that range. He did hit 237 last year. I think he does have a more productive year because he's going to make sure that he gets to a team that's really going to appreciate him as far as production. Next, after that, you're definitely going to be looking at Joe Mixon up here. He's going to have a great season as well. I think he's going to definitely produce greatly. He's going to take a step forward because he's going to get a better workload in Cincinnati. Seems that with the better O-line, they may not have to rely on a pass-heavy approach as much because that did work for them all season until it didn't, right? And then the Chiefs took over. So I think they're going to get him more involved on the ground and continue to feed him. And if he stays healthy, he's going to have his best season to date. Now moving up here to the next couple of fantasy backs over here. We're looking at Tony Pollard and Travis Etienne. Big fan of these backs. I love them. Tony Pollard, of course, is going to miss early part of the season, most likely a few games. They're saying he's going to start, but I doubt it. I think he's going to miss a couple games. And then, of course, moving on, he's going to definitely outproduce himself. And moving on to Travis Etienne, he's going to have a great season. I think Jacksonville improved the O-line just a little bit, one position. Otherwise, the O-line's still a little bit of an issue, but he's going to get a better workload. He's going to be more efficient because he did lose some fumbles last year. He also has a big run, so I think he gets bigger and stronger. Next couple backs coming in here, Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor. You're looking at it like, oh, my God, those are top backs from last year. Well, Taylor was a top pick. Jacobs was a top Russian champ last year. But it's because I just think Las Vegas is too inconsistent for me. They're going to take a step back for sure. And that means that production is obviously going to take a step back, especially with him there. Obviously, Vegas holds grudges, so they're going to probably get mad at him because he didn't want to sign for the franchise tag. Next running back over here, we have Jonathan Taylor, obviously great back. I think he's going to take a step forward and be healthy, but obviously he's definitely going to get some goal line touches taken away by the rookie. There's no way that that's sustainable. He's not going to have that fantasy season. We once knew that Josh Jacobs is long gone. And gone or not, I'm still going to take him with that pick in that ADP because I just think he is worth it. He's going to come back. He's going to have a better season. But I don't think he's going to be a top 5 back this year, if not for a while with that offense until they develop, of course. And now we're moving on to the top 8 fantasy backs here. I'm going to go ahead and expose them now. Number 8 and number 7, not players that most people anticipate. I do have Najee Harris and the Ram Stevenson. I call him Ram because he just busts some heads. But Najee Harris obviously had a little bit of a down year last year. Everybody expected him to take a step forward. Obviously, new system, no Big Ben, right? Like he definitely took a step back. But second year with Kenny Pickett, the second half of the season, he did blow up a little bit, got better. So I expect him to come back and have a bounce back year and be super dominant because he's such a big body. Ram, of course, is the man. He's going to sit there and truck people. He's going to run people over in that Bill Belichick system. Those running backs are always great. Yeah, they're committees, but at the end of the day, I think he's going to take a step forward and be even better than last year because he did lose some steam at the second half. But I could see him easily hitting in these high 300s over here as far as fantasy points. You give him enough touches, over 300 touches, that man will produce. He's going to give you a 1 point a touch. 300 touch, I mean, he had 50 receptions last year. They get a pretty high PPR. Najee had 45 receptions. So these are going to be really big workload backs. Some of your better backs out there, definitely worth considering here. And obviously some of your top guys, sleepers of the year, in my opinion. Next 2 backs here, we have number 6 and 5, Mr. Saquon Barkley. He's going to have another amazing year. He's going to get over 300, even on the franchise tag, because I think they are going to pay him. He's going to be an excellent option, but again, New York's only going to get so far, so he may not be as dominant as he once was. Nick Chubb, of course, finally is going to get that big, juicy workload that we have been wanting for so very long. That man has not been given the touches he deserves, and he is finally going to get those. So he's going to be your 5th best back this year. Enough said about Nick Chubb. He's the most efficient rusher in the league, and he's going to continue to do so every single time. So you won't be disappointed with him. Now the next couple fantasy backs we have here, Bijan and the King. Most people have it the other way around and have Derrick Henry down a little bit farther. I mean, Bijan is going to be great. Run first offense. He's going to be dominant, get a lot of touches. He's going to get a 300-plus touch workload this year, so he's going to be super efficient. But I don't think he's going to outproduce the King. I mean, that guy had 300 points last year. I mean, he's going to do a little bit better this year with the healthy Tannehill, slightly better O-line, better coaching. So I easily think King Henry is going to get another 300-plus point year. And then your last two, of course, your King of the Rings, your top 2 running backs for the year, Austin Eckler. Is that any surprise? The man had 375 points last year. Amazing. Like, it doesn't get any better than this guy. He's going to continue to be your best back, and you're not going to be disappointed, but he takes a slight regression. That's it. McCaffrey, second best running back last year. He's going to be a little bit better. He's going to be your top back without a doubt. That workload in San Fran is amazing, and we all know what that Shanahan system does to running backs. It makes them even more amazing if they stay healthy, of course. So if he stays healthy, you're talking about the best fantasy back. That man's going to get 350 carries and 100 receptions this year. It doesn't matter who's back there throwing him the ball. I mean, McCaffrey is going to get his touches, and that's the way Shanahan likes to run it. So if Debo doesn't take a bigger role like he did before, I mean, we're looking at some similar production this year, if not better. And that's considering the man didn't show up until like 8 games into the season, right? So 356 playing with the Panthers, he didn't even produce that well. So that was pretty amazing. Over here, we're going to go ahead and jump into our top 25 fantasy quarterbacks. Obviously, here there's no handcuffs. It's just, bench stashes. Last 3 guys here have Jordan Love, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young. The reason I have that the way I think Love's going to be pretty solid. He was great at Utah State. I mean, the guy's 4 years behind Rodgers. That guy's going to be solid. Trust me. He's a good little stash for you for spot starting. And they're going to run the ball heavy, but he might get some goal line rushes there. Next dude up is C.J. Stroud. Pretty awesome guy. Great tape on the fantasy training camp. He's going to be better than anticipated, but he's not going to be that great. So worth considering for a few matches, but not anything crazy. And then Bryce Young, of course, is going to be your top draft pick. He's going to be pretty solid. Again, his stash is based on the matchup. I don't think he's going to be that great, but he will have some big games in there. After him, of course, we're going to move up over here to the next couple of quarterbacks. And, of course, the next rookie up is, of course, our boy, Anthony Richardson. Florida alumni there. The guy's going to get a lot of rushing touches here. He's going to continue to produce. Yeah, so let me go ahead and move this up here so I could show you who I'm talking about. I'm sure you already know Anthony Richardson. Probably going to be your best offensive rookie, but he's going to get a lot of goal line touches. I just don't think he's going to be consistent. So worth a stash, nothing crazy. Matt Stafford, of course, coming back from injury. He missed a lot of games last year. He's going to have his top weapon, Cooper Kupp, back. I mean, hopefully better offense. Sean McVay refresh. They could possibly be better. But again, he's your second best quarterback. You better not have him as a starter, because let me tell you, you're going to be suffering the whole season if that's your case. And of course, let me adjust over here to the next couple of fantasy quarterbacks. Let me see. 1 second. Coming in after, of course, Mr. Stafford, we're going to have the man, the myth, the legend, Russell Wilson and Derek Carr. Derek Carr, of course, great season last year. He's going to continue much of the same. I think he's in a better situation, but, of course, he is limited. His ceiling has already passed, and he's better days behind him. Russell Wilson, of course, is going to be solid. Back with Denver, Sean Payton, it's going to be a better offense. But, of course, of Russell Wilson we know and love is gone, ladies and gentlemen. We got to accept this is the back end of his career. He's going to be a game manager now, and a very good one. But Payton needs to get rid of that front office, or excuse me, his side office, where he holds all his yoga and all that stuff, whatever weird crap he has. Brock Purdy, of course, great stash. You're not going to start him early, but he's going to be a nice late season addition. If you stash him, he's going to play later, and he's going to be a great spot start when you're later on in the season. So he's going to definitely give you the production you want, because he was a top 25 fantasy quarterback back half of the season last year. Kyler Murray, of course, another stash. If he's not playing video games and he rehabs, he will be a nice little stash for the second half. I would not make him your best, though. Very unreliable. And also his teammates don't really like him that much. So that could definitely be a good or bad situation. I think they trade him next offseason and get Caleb Williams as the first pick in the draft. So I expect Arizona to stink. Dak Prescott, woof. People are like, why do you have him at 16? You're such a Cowboys hater. No, listen, ladies and gentlemen. I know he missed some games last year, but he led the league in interceptions. And if you play in certain leagues where they penalize you for that, I would not want to have a quarterback that's losing you 2 to 3 points a game. Actually, each interception up to 2 points, so up to 6 points a game off picks. I don't like that. I don't want to live and die by the pick. And I think although Dallas is a little bit better this season, Dak is a little bit worse because his peak is come and gone. His ceiling is gone, and he's never going to be the same again, folks. Just accept it. That's just kind of how it is. Great athlete, great football player, just not necessarily the one he used to be, which, it's normal. But just don't let the numbers fool you, all right? That was great for the short amount of games he played, but overall, a lot of risk there. Next two guys, we have Tua and Geno. Two great performers last year. Tua, of course, missing tons of time. Much of the same. He's going to go ahead and come back, maybe be healthier, have a slight step forward. But, of course, there's no guarantee, right? But death and taxes. So Tua, we never know how he's going to be. Hopefully he's better because they're amazing. Geno Smith, of course, amazing season last year, over 300 points. I mean, the guy has really went up. Like, he has really dominated here. So he's going to continue much of the same. Obviously, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. So at the end of the day, we want to do his best. And unfortunately, that may be to fade these guys just a little bit more than they were last year. Next two guys up, Aaron Rodgers, Daniel Jones. Aaron Rodgers takes a slight step forward. And, of course, he's going to have a solid season, but he's not going to be the MVP we know and love. He is gone. That guy got really high and high. Huska is gone, ladies and gentlemen. So, good luck finding him. Daniel Jones, of course, guy could float up the rankings here through the season. He could be great in that Brian Dable offense. It remains to be seen. New weapons. So, I do like a couple of those receivers. We'll see how they go. Next two guys, some of the more consistent quarterbacks of last year. Of course, you already saw them. Jared Goff and, of course, Kirk Cousins. They were just pretty amazing last year. Really exceeded their expectations. Guys that you would have thought would have been lesser on the tier there, but they were actually top 15, top 10 quarterbacks at times. So Jared Goff, of course, get him in, same production, better weapons this year. So I think he remains in the same level 280s. So that should be fine. Of course, Kirk Cousins has some new weapons there. And Deshaun Watson. So Kirk Cousins replaced Thielen, upgraded him with Addison, lost Cook, slight downgrade, but they're going to go pass heavier, so that may be better for him. So he's going to get in the same production. Next guy, of course, Deshaun Watson. Missed most of the season last year. Another season, new weapons, better familiar. He's more familiar with the offense, so definitely going to be a season he takes forward. You might see a resurrection Deshaun Watson season, so definitely worth somebody taking it a little bit later of a flyer, not too early. And of course, definitely always worth the consideration. Now we are getting to our starters, our starter QBs, guys that you must start every week. So obviously, Lamar Jackson and Trevor Lawrence. Most people have Lamar Jackson higher. I do not like taking his ADP is too high for me. It's 60, and that means he's the 5th round pick every time. So 5th round for a quarterback that may miss half of your season, to me, is not worth it. Will he win your first half of the games? Absolutely he will. He will be on fire and ridiculous points, but he's not going to play the whole full season, and he hasn't in a while. Trevor Lawrence, of course, excellent season last year, had better weapons this year. Slight upgrade in the O-line, but second year in the system, I could see them doing better. Definitely a great starter you want to grab early. You probably want to grab him a little bit later. I like probably pulling them around the 6th round. But if you pull a little bit sooner, you are taking some risk. But hey, it's up to you. It's your team. Next 2 guys, I have the Justin Herbert, Justin Fields. Of course, Justin Herbert, it's going to be better this year. More weapons, better offense. Rashawn Slater, the O-lineman, is back to tackle. And then Justin Fields, of course, this guy had an amazing season last year playing limited games, or actually having good limited games in the second half. The offense changed, and, man, that guy was really on fire. So he's going to be a top 5 QB this year, definitely. With those wheels, I mean, spot him, start him every single week, my friends. He is going to walk you to the bank there. But if you happen to grab a QB sooner, you want a Hall of Famer, Joe Burrow is as good as it gets right there. I mean, that guy could finish at the top if Bengals go top heavy as far as passing. But I think with the better O-line, they might run the ball a little bit more. So that means Joe Burrow wouldn't have to do as much. So his points would be a little bit more spread out, but still highly efficient. So he's going to be amazing. So definitely, if you grab him, you better have that Jamar Chase or that T. Higgins stack. But you need to grab Jamar in the first. Now, Josh Allen, of course, I have him as my number 3 QB. Everybody has him as 2. I think that whole Stephon Diggs drama has really it's going to take a slight toll on that team. Not much, but some. I think that chemistry is going to be a little bit off. And it seems to be an issue between those two. They might have had a disagreement. And it starts with Josh Allen trying to do too much. So I think he's going to try to take a step back, and in doing so, he's going to be more efficient passing. But I don't think he's going to be the second best QB. I think he's going to be amazing, and if you grab him with your 3rd round pick, you have excellent value with him because he's going around 35 right now. So 12, 24, 36, yeah, about the end of the 3rd round. So really great value there. And of course, the top 2 QBs, who do we have here? None other than... We already know who it's going to be, right? Everybody has them. That means that it's going to be Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. And, of course, Jalen Hurts is going to be the second best QB. Similar production, maybe a slight step forward. That's just because he'll be a little bit more efficient in the air. And trust me, last year he was as efficient as it gets. I mean, amazing, almost 400 points, much of the same, right? So if you're grabbing that guy with your 3rd, amazing. But he's typically going right now. ADP is 41, 12, 24, 36. So late 3rd, great ADP. And of course, if you're grabbing the King Mahomes, 417 last year, it doesn't get any better than that guy. He's going to continue to dominate. He's going to continue to be the best. And it's not even going to be close, ladies and gentlemen. He's just going to do what he does. And if you want to do the stack, I would do the Kelsey in the first, Mahomes in the second stack. I mean, you're guaranteed to get 60 points a game out of those guys. So that would be one of my favorites. Obviously, that's going to be a different video. But at the end of the day, until Mahomes proves otherwise, he is the top fantasy QB of 2023. And it's not even close, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you take him with your 2nd round pick. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope that you learned something. I hope I could help you with something, at least figuring it out, being the best possible armchair GM you can be. If you're finishing last, I mean, at the end of the day, you need to change something up, and that's what I'm here for, to shake things up, maybe switch your thought process a little bit, look at it a little bit different as far as perspective. I'm someone that does take a, slightly analytical, but also, prediction type of approach, right? So you can't predict what everybody's going to do, and not everything can be measured by a stat. But as long as you combine everything together in the proper way, you can maximize your production and give yourself the best possible season you can ever have. So those of you, thank you so much for joining me here. Please hit the follow button, like button, share, tell your friends. At the end of the day, this is based upon, word of mouth, and I appreciate every single one of you for supporting me. All right. Have a great rest of your night, folks. Take care. God bless.